Welcome to the Ancient Coin Podcast with Aaron Burke, a show about ancient coins from the viewpoint of a seasoned professional with nearly 30 years' experience. Here's Aaron Burke and Mike Nulman on the Ancient Coin Podcast.
Howdy, partner. And that sound is, dude, what are you doing?
It's my Christmas skull. I forgot.
Oh, God.
I must have grabbed the wrong hat. Sorry, I thought this was my Christmas hat. Let me put my other one on.
Wow. All right, let's try this again.
I wanted that to do that with the
no. Hey, if that's what you want, man, we're there. We're rolling. So as you can tell, it's Christmas time, and we're here at the Ancient Coin Podcast with Aaron Burke. He is
Aaron Burke.
And I'm Mike Nulman. Today, if I can get out of this without being completely humiliated, it should be a great show. We're going to talk about a specific auction this week. And other than that, we've got our pearl for our necklace of wisdom. We're going to talk about something really cool at HJB.
And I have a Doofus purchase.
And a Doofus purchase. Yeah, so I mean, it sounds to me like a action-packed.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think I just threw you off with my hat.
Dude, that's classic. That was the best.
That's my 10-gallon Texas hat, baby.
Yeah. So so hey, anytime you want to put this thing back on the rails is fine with me.
All right, I'm ready to go now.
Right, that's cool.
I finished my festivities.
Oh yeah, no, it's Christmas time. Let's have some fun.
You know, when you have a little bit too much eggnog, that's the way the cookie crumbles.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah. So holiday times. Happy holidays to everybody. And with holidays means that we're going to be coming up on the New York International, starting, the auction starts January 9th. The show is the end of that week.
This could be the first time in 3 years, right?
No.
Oh, they had it last year? The New York show?
Yeah. Yeah,
okay.
We had it last year.
Okay, because last year was the first time.
But last year, C&G was not in the auction room. And so they did most of the auction from Pennsylvania. And I've been told this year that they will be there in full and have a true auction room. No, so since COVID was kind of happening, they were worried about some of their staff getting COVID. And so I was literally in New York in the auction room, and I think there was 3 of us there. And the rest of their staff, they had about 2 staff members there, and the rest of their staff was in Pennsylvania doing it via video. And so that was an interesting scenario. So this year I decided that I'm going to I'll be in New York again. And
this year is going to be just more completely normal. It's going to be like pre-pandemic.
Yeah. And I understood their situation.
Sure.
So they were the only auction house to do that, but
they were also the only place that had their auctions in January.
No. So the New York International,
okay.
and I'll have to remind you about this, Mike. So the New York International is probably the only show that all the European auction houses, as well as dealers and collectors from around the world, show up, because it is literally 7 days of auctions, straight auctions. And there's about, I want to say, between 4 and 6 auction houses, something like that are running auctions. So you have C&G, which runs their Triton auction. You have the New York sale that's run by Goldbergs, Baldwins, and a couple other people. I forget their whole conglomerate. They run 2 days worth of auctions. You have Stax runs several days of auctions. Heritage runs their auction. Colby and Fanning runs an auction, and I think there's one other auction house beyond that I might be missing.
Well, truthfully, I kind of misspoke in the fact that I was really thinking in terms of the New York International Show, which is the show that's in early January. Even Fun doesn't usually come until, early February or late January. So that's all I was thinking, was they had the first show of the year And that comes from me being a U.S. guy, right? And
Yeah,
just not being.
well, yeah, fun, so fun used to always be in January. The Newark International used to be actually, if you go back about 20 years or plus, it was always in December. But we had this little issue called 9/11, and the show was held at the Trade Center,
Mm.
at the World Trade Center, in the mezzanine area, which I used to go to. And after 9/11, obviously, in September, they had to find a new venue because there was no more World Trade Center.
Right.
And so they went to the Waldorf Astoria Hotel. And since then, this is now, since 9/11, this is now the third hotel that we've been at. The newest hotel we're at now is at the International Hotel. I forget, International Continental Hotel, which I think was there might have been there in the 60s or 70s or something like that. There was another show there at one point. But in any case,
They just couldn't get it back to finding a venue in December, so they.
No, and I think just the calendars, just, once they got it there, they just didn't change it again. And so it was nice when it was in December, because the reason they did it then was all the Europeans would come over because of all the auctions, but they would also bring their families to do shopping in New York City during Christmas.
Sure.
And so
It's good for business.
So we used to always do the New York International, and then we would always do Fun after that. Well, since then, Fun and New York International, they go back and forth with
who's
being
first
the same
and who's
week, not being the same week, flip-flopping. And it just happens that they're not the same week this week, but the Fun show ends on Sunday. The first day of the auctions are on Monday. And for me, it's just too close. Because if you get caught in a snowstorm down in Florida and not make it up to New York, I could miss the first couple of days of the auction. And that's actually happened to me before. So I just don't take that kind of risk. I used to walk the Fun show if I could, and then head up to New York for the International, but now it just doesn't make any sense. So if they're too close together. And for a while, they were happening exactly the same week. So dealers really had to make a choice on which show they were going to go to.
Well, yeah, and that doesn't make sense from a business standpoint to have two major shows at the same time. I mean, it just doesn't.
It doesn't, and it just because of 9/11 that this is the situation we're in, and the New York International just never got back to figuring it out in December. And maybe the cost benefit, they realized the cost benefit was just better in January, and they probably were always shunned to try to do January before 9/11.
Or maybe the venues just aren't
fun.
available. I mean, it's New York City and it's Christmas time, so.
Well, that's what I mean. And maybe they always decided to try to get out of December, but I wasn't really around the board of the International at that time. I was pretty, relatively new in the, doing the coin business at the time. But it could be that they could have said, well, no, there's Fun going on. You can't touch January. And then after 9/11, nobody could say anything.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was hard to begrudge somebody a right to earn a living. So
exactly. So anyway, so here we are now. So it's really and really the Fun show has always been more of a U.S. show, and the International has always been a world and ancient show. There's very little U.S. dealers at the International. And so the few world and ancient guys that actually go down to Fun do very good business because they don't have any competition from the guys that are just doing New York. And so, it's really a crapshoot just depending on how you want to do it. Both shows are excellent for traffic. And so for us, it's really the premiere for Ancients. And with all the auctions going on and all of our international dealers that come over for it, so one time a year we get to see them. So unless you decide to go over to Europe for a show, which we typically don't do, at least us, or if they show up to the ANA or some of the other big shows, which the Europeans typically don't. There's a few that do, but in general, this is the only show they show up for. So anyway, with that, I decided that I would, profile the Triton sale this year. or this show. Sorry, I misspoke there. And so the Triton auction will be January 10th and 11th, which is going to be that Tuesday and Wednesday of the show. Monday is Heritage. And I didn't really look at Heritage much, so it's not always as good of an auction as Triton is. So Triton is pretty much the premier auction for the New York International in general. That has some of the best coins being offered. So if you want to go to the first coin that I'm going to profile, it's lot 83. It's
Thrace?
a coin. It's minted in Thrace, which is in Greece, and it's Orthoragora.
It's easy for you to say.
Yeah, exactly. This is kind of an unusual stater type, but I found it interesting. It's not the most expensive coin, obviously, but it's interesting for what it is, because you have Artemis with her bow behind her head on the obverse, and then you have this really cool Calchidian helmet on the reverse. And so I've actually handled helmets like that, and so with the ear flaps, and so it's really fun to see some of the armor wear that can be found on coins sometimes. And so I just thought this was a cool piece. The city itself was probably founded by Philip II, Alexander's father, and after Alexander's death, kind of died out over a certain amount of time. So it was really a trade city up and through the time of Philip into Alexander, and then became less important over the time after Alexander's death. But here it's in its height, and this is the type of coinage it was producing.
I think that this type of helmet is almost like it's like the default, when you think about ancient Roman soldiers, that's the helmet you think of. So to be honest with you, I didn't really quite see it when I first saw the coin. And then as soon as you said it, oh yeah, now I see it. Now I see, the ear flaps and the I don't know what you would call it on the front, the ornamentation, and stuff like that. I have a question though about the obverse. So behind, this is Athena?
No, it's Artemis.
Artemis. Okay, so behind Artemis's head looks to be a sword.
No, it's a bow quiver.
Okay, so why?
Because she had bow and arrows. That was her thing.
That was her thing. Okay, so that was her superpower.
So you have the quiver of arrows behind her head to state that that's Artemis. And again, this is in the Greek period, not the Roman period. So I kind of got to go back a little bit. Some of the Roman helmets actually became much more boring. And in fact, almost were like bowl haircut type helmets.
Mm-hmm.
They did some with flaps, but most of what you see in this earlier period is strictly just Greek. So this is more around the time of Alexander the Great.
Okay.
So if we want to move on, let's go to lot 830. This is their highlight of their auction. It is a gold medallion of Diocletian, and this weighs 10 aurei. So it's 53.65 grams. And we talked about the Constantine the Great medallion, which was a 6 aurei medallion. That was an NAC, which ended up, I bought it for a client. I was lucky enough to win that coin. This coin is kind of the same animal, but different, because here, the one I bought was of Constantine the Great. This is Diocletian, which is going to be before Constantine the Great. Diocletian, interesting guy. He actually came up through the military ranks where a lot of these guys were coming up. And then he actually raised Maximian to reign in the West, and Diocletian reigned in the East. And then they appointed Galerius Constantius as co-junior emperors. So all four of them actually were reigning at the time. And honestly, this probably kept Diocletian alive, because he actually was able to live out his life, retire to his country home in what's now Croatia, and die peacefully. So unusual guy. And because he was producing these gold medallions and giving them out to probably his top military people, gold always keeps everybody happy, especially the military.
Well, you had said that this was the highlight of the auction, and I mean, it's really not hard to see why. The coin
just
is
a
just
massive
absolutely, well, yes, it's a massive gold coin,
Mm-hmm.
and it's ancient, but I mean, the preservation on this is incredible,
It
and
is.
the surfaces just look really, really good. This is like, it looks like it was made last year.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, completely.
And very well sculpted. I mean, the detail is really nice. The eagle on the back, Zeus is sitting in the chair.
He is. Good
Okay,
job.
so I got one right today. Okay, it's even a broken clock is right twice a day. He's got an 8-pack working, so I mean he's just ripped, and
he does.
It's a huge coin. So yeah, I can see why this is the highlight of the auction.
Yeah, actually, I was in San Francisco at a small show over the weekend, and C&G was there, and they brought a couple highlights, and they actually brought this coin. So I got to hold it. Unfortunately, it was in a slab, and so I got to hold it in its plastic. But still very impressive.
Something can be done about that, though.
Oh, it certainly can. I think the biggest issue with this coin that I think some people have is it doesn't have an old pedigree. That's probably why they also put it in a slab, because they wanted to give people a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? They wanted to make them feel a little bit better about it because it doesn't have a pedigree. I mean, I talked to probably one of the top buyers in the world for this thing, and he was feeling a little uneasy because it didn't have an old pedigree. And in fact, he was the underbidder on the Constantine the Great Medallion that I was bidding on, which is funny because he walked up to my table, and first thing I said to him, I said, "So are you bidding against me on the Constantine?" And he said, "Yes." and I said, "Sorry." He said, no, it's okay. He's like, "I'm glad you won it," or something along those lines. But
classy.
then he said, but it's always fun talking to your competition after you won.
Mm-hmm.
So he definitely beats me out on a lot of material, and so it's nice to get a win every once in a while. So, but it's but it has been slabbed by NGC. They gave it the star designation because of the rarity of this thing. I mean, obviously it's fantastic either way. It has a little bit of wear in the top portion on the obverse on the hair. And so, I can't imagine that. I suppose that was wear from the die because it's so perfect otherwise. I don't remember if there was much wear in the hair or not. But other than that, it's really an impressive.
It does seem to be on the high point, but that could be strike or wear. It's just kind of the way.
Yeah, it could. You got to wonder how many of these. They probably didn't have a big mintage of these.
Right. Well, what do you think the population is now? Is this the only one?
Most of these are even the Constantine the Great I bought was unique.
Okay, and this is roughly the same size, correct?
No.
This
Mine
one
was
is
a
bigger?
6 Orei. Yeah, this is much bigger. So ours was a 6 Orei medallion,
right,
which weighed 26.77 grams.
Okay, yeah,
this
you're right.
This is a 10 Orei medallion, which weighs 53.
This one is almost 2 ounces, and the other one was almost an ounce.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But
it's roughly twice the size.
Right. But it's also like it was minted 30 years later. They weren't doing Orei at the time. They were doing the Solidus. So it was, it's a different time period, even though it wasn't that long after, but it's still different. So, but you got to realize that most of these medallions would have been melted down. There's a chance some of them were in jewelry as well. Maybe put in jewelry in the Renaissance or even in the ancient period. And so to get them to survive, without being melted down is very, very difficult. And they probably didn't mint many of these things to begin with. That's a lot of money in ancient times for one person to have. And so to have something survive 2,000 years and just the
And
flight
still
of
look
not being
good.
melted down
Yeah.
and still look good, it's really, they're all these medallions they're all unique. They're all rare. You can't say, well, oh, they're common. No, every single one of them is extremely rare.
No, they're
So
common. Yeah.
this just happens to be one of the largest. They even say in their description it's the first one since 1922 being offered at public auction of this magnitude. So so anyway, it's a fantastic thing. Most of us will never be able to afford such a thing, but we can all enjoy it from afar or through the plastic when we hold it at the viewing room.
Yeah, so it says the article goes on to say that the ones that were found in 22 are basically in collections. They're in museum collections.
Correct. Most of these things are in museums.
Sure.
So if we go to the next coin, lot 755, I picked this because it's a very famous coin. You have the
755. Hold on. 755. Oh, missed it. Sorry. Give me a second.
No worries.
There we go.
Okay,
that's better.
So we have, so this is Trajan's Sestercius, and it's on the reverse is Trajan's column. And so Trajan's column still exists today in the Forum in Italy. Trajan's column is about 98 feet high, about 35 meters. And it actually was produced during Trajan's reign to celebrate his victory over the Dacians. And so so they actually have all the Dacian images going around the shaft all the way to the top. And it still exists today. And they did, Sestercia are, they come up, but this one's very nice. They also have the Trajan's column on the silver denarii, which is the smaller silver coin as well. But I picked that out just because it's pretty clear. The top statue on top of Trajan's pretty worn, but the rest of the statue is pretty good, and it's very nice. And look, it was purchased by Harlan J. Burke Limited, or owned by Harlan J. Burke Limited in 2008, and we sold it again in 2002. So we, Harlan Burke actually handles some decent coins every once in a while.
So what's notable about this coin though is that the relief is really good and really strong, both sides. When the column itself is really in a bad position to strike. And then the statue at the top, some of it is wear, but some of it is just strike issues because, the metal had to come from somewhere.
Yeah. But the more important part is it's not tooled. It's not been messed with. It's all natural.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest thing when you have famous coins like this with famous reverses. Typically, if they're worn, or there's any wear, it's very common for people to tool these things to bring up the surfaces, and that obviously hurts the value of the coin. But in this situation, you have a very nice coin, nice patina. It's not olive green, but it's nice for what it is. And so of a very famous sculpture that still exists today.
Yeah. I will say that I had kind of an aha with this, that, okay, we're 21 episodes in, and look, it's like every once in a while a light bulb goes on with me. One of the things that I'm starting to do now is to look at the legends and starting to try and read the legends. So it's like with this one, okay, Emperor Caesar, something, then there's Trajan. So it's like, okay, so that's what's going to give me more clues as to what's going on than anything else. I'm just starting to figure out this symbolism that they use. So, hey, look, even for those that are following along with me or learning with me, it's like, even a professional, it's really taken something to kind of get into this.
It's every coinage is completely different, and with ancient numismatics, you have 1,800 years of production, and they produced a lot. And so some of it becomes very standard, and some of it becomes very as they say, Greek.
Yeah, it's all Greek to me.
So in any case,
But,
moving on, you're going to
yes.
have one you can't read at all. This is lot 979.
Yes. Now this one looks
And
to have Christian markings.
it does. So that's Christ on the obverse, and you have the emperor on the reverse. And during the what we call it's the Eastern Roman Empire or the Byzantine Empire, you always have Christ first because Christ was more important than the emperor. And so in this time, we always are going to have the Christ figure, so you have the halo of Christ on the obverse, and you have the emperor on the back. This is Constantine the 11th. He is the last Roman emperor before the Roman Empire was destroyed in 1453 AD. And this is actually what they call a siege coin. And so as the Turks were coming in and destroying Constantinople, Constantine the 11th was literally melting down the candles or the silver in the church, minting these coins to pay the soldiers for their last siege against the Turks before they were defeated. And so this is actually, there's some coronation coins that are a little bit nicer, but this is a siege coin. We can tell just by the crudeness of it that the actual die cutters had already left the city, and so he was left with just nobody. And so they were down to melting down the silver in the church to pay the soldiers that had stayed behind. And so these are literally the last coins ever minted by the Roman Empire. So obviously one of the 100 greatest ancient coins. And the reason I always remember the fall of the Byzantine Empire or the Roman Empire is 1453 AD is because my father made it our alarm code.
Okay, that's good to know.
So when I was a kid, that was our home alarm code.
That's funny.
So, and his office alarm code. It's no longer alarm code anymore, but it was when I was a kid. Yeah, so it was when I was a kid. So I knew as a child that the fall of the Byzantine Empire or Roman Empire was 1453 because of our alarm.
That is a way to program your child.
Well, yeah, and you know what the name of our cats were? Claudius and Livia, which were Roman emperor and empresses.
Okay.
So
the last ones.
So only a beginning. Okay. So only a classical numismatists would have their kids name their cats or dogs by Roman emperors or empresses.
I hope you're prepared for years of this, because at this pace, it's going to take me about 15 years to figure some of this stuff out. But I'm having fun.
Hey, there's always fun. Fun is always there, right?
Yeah, fun is good.
So I do have a Doofus purchase because some people were complaining we didn't have a Doofus purchase the last couple of weeks.
They're just sadists.
I went into the Doofus vaults, and I found a more recent one, and it was in the last NAC sale that happened in I believe it was in the end of November, and and here we have a Philip II Tetradrachm. It's an amazing coin. It's a posthumous issue, so it's issued after Philip's death. The estimate was already ridiculous. You got to remember, so this particular auction, these were owned by the Sheikh. The Sheikh overpaid for a lot of his coins, and so he probably even paid more for it and was taking a loss. So NAC was probably trying to cut his losses, but somebody decided to pay 32,000 Swiss francs for this. If I had this coin, I wouldn't ask more than 15,000 for it. So 32,000 plus their buyer's fees, which are almost 23%, is
wow.
Outlandish.
Well, I mean, so this coin is spectacular, but I do understand what you mean. It's not an important enough issue or rare enough to merit that type of.
It's a great coin, and I've bought Philip II's that are better than this, that are pedigreed better than this. I mean, okay, it's in a rider, which is the standard work, but it doesn't have that old of a pedigree, and so it's decent. Actually, it does have an old pedigree. I take that back. It goes back to 1926. So, but I've bought coins with better pedigrees than this that look better, that are actually lifetime issues, and I only paid 12,000. So, and only bought it 2 years ago for a client. And so for somebody to pay 32,000 plus the juice for something like this, it's just way too much money, way too much money. So they could have, this was obviously somebody very wealthy who didn't care what they paid, but in my
Much
humble
like the
opinion,
shake.
yeah, in my humble opinion, I would still consider this to be a doofus purchase. So based on what they paid and what they could get in the market, there's plenty of beautiful pedigreed Philip IIs that are as good or better than this, and that would have probably cost half the amount of money. So that's my doofus purchase for
Fair enough.
this
And you're giving the people what they want.
I am. I try. I
More
always
doofus.
try. So so education, Mike.
Sir?
Always an interesting place to go. But I thought that it might be fun to do ancient brockages. And so, which are basically error coins.
Yes.
And so, Mike, if you want to bring up our slideshow.
Got it.
Okay. So basically, basically what a brockage is an error where the reverse die gets doubled up in the planchet where it doesn't so the strike doesn't come through. Mike, if you go to the next slide, we'll show you what we're talking about. So this actually was in an article by Peter Lewis a number of years ago, and I thought this kind of showed it pretty well. So on the far left up on the top, you have what it should be. So they heat up the planchet of the coin, the round silver or gold or bronze, and then the obverse die is down inside the anvil. The reverse die is up on the top, and then they strike the coin when it's cool, when the metal is cooling, and then you get a nice obverse and reverse. And in the situation where you get in most cases, this is, the theory anyway, is that they would then, the die striker, since all these things are done by hand, would raise to go pound another one and not realize that the last one that he had struck is still stuck up inside the reverse die. And so comes down and basically imprints it with no strike, no metal, and so then the obverse die gets struck through to the other side, essentially, and so you end up with just one image being reversed on the reverse side, and the reverse not and the reverse not coming through.
Right. So you actually end up with two error coins. You end up with the brockage, and you end up with the die cap.
Yeah, you'll probably do that. Yeah, that's exactly right. And so these, in some cases they may have melted these down, but I think in most cases, especially you see them a lot in the Roman Republican and early Imperatorial. There's lots of them, so I think they just kind of let them through because they were still proper weight. And so you have to remember these things wasn't a perfect science as far as imagery and the way they struck it, but the weight was very accurate. So as long as the silver still made sense, it didn't make sense for them to stop the process, reheat, melt down that planchet and start over again.
Well, at the end of the day, to the end user, it just didn't matter. To them, it was about the weight of the silver and the purity of the silver, and that's okay. And the fact that it has this design on it is cool, but that didn't really matter to them because they were going to use them to spend.
So we'll go through quickly and kind of show. If you go to the next slide, you'll see a Republican coin, and you can see the very cool mirrored image on the reverse of the coin, which is a lot of fun. If you go to the next slide, you'll see a coin of Augustus. What's cool about this coin is actually it has counter marks on the obverse of the coin. So not only was it a brockage error, but also then it traveled and somebody struck it twice with counter marks on the obverse.
This one was used.
It was used, and it traveled. And so that's really cool.
That is really cool. I like this coin a lot.
It's a beautiful coin, and these coins are very collectible. There's a lot of people that love Brockages, love error coins. I mean, we love error coins and US coins,
Sure.
right? And so obviously they're not as typically as valuable as the official coins, but depending on the error, and the rarity of it could be something that a lot of people find desirable. They're not going to bring as much money as some of the official coinages would, but definitely still very desirable and very collectible. And a cool area to collect if you're into it. Or if you collect Republican, why not get a bunch of Brockages? Because they're kind of fun, and would fit into your collection. So if you go to the next slide, Mike, you have probably, I think this is Gata or let's see, Gata.
Yeah,
I
Gata.
think it's Gata.
Yeah.
And so, and here you have the imprint. So going to the Severan period, the next coin, if you see, this is a reverse brockage. So typically you have obverse ones, occasionally you do get a reverse one. And so this is a reverse one. If you go to the next one, you get in the later Constantinian period, where it actually is off center on the obverse and it's blank on the reverse. So they completely messed it up. But wow, what a cool error, So a lot of fun. You can get all kinds of really cool errors here. You go to the next coin, you get it's off center. You get a little bit of the obverse, and you got a double struck brockage
with
reverse on half the coin. So again, wow, when they went and struck this.
This is a lot of errors for your money on this coin.
Oh yeah, a lot of fun, and it's and this is normally $3 or $4 coin. It's not expensive. And so This obviously is more expensive, as this is the opposite of what Brockages are, because the coin itself is so cheap. To get an error like this would be desirable, which make it worth more than the actual official coinage. So in this situation, which is fun. So if you go to the next slide, we have Byzantine. So it really happens across the spectrum in all different metals. This is probably the Theopolis or something like that, or Basel. I forget which one this one is, but again, happens in the Byzantine copper. And then finally, if you go to the next slide, you will see gold. So gold is a little bit more unusual. I think they took a little bit more care with gold. And so you don't see as much of the gold errors than you do in some of the other metals. So again,
it seems like the gold stuff was just more important, and it was because it was more important, they paid more attention,
or just melted down their errors and started over again. So
because I mean that's a lot of investment to do that, to melt down a coin and to start over. That's why with the silver it just didn't matter, because to the end user they didn't care at all. With a gold coin, maybe they did.
And again, silver was silver and gold, but silver was a treasury coin, and so a lot of that stuff wasn't spent. It was probably just held in large quantity bags and traded in large quantities by the armies or by the wealthy, and so they probably didn't even look at some of these coins. It was all done by weight,
right?
And so
as all coinage was until the late 20th century.
That's true. So again, Brockages, great way to go. There's different kinds of errors beyond that. There's a lot of good articles you can read on this subject. And again, not expensive to collect. And I know the collectors that are out there really enjoy it and have a lot of fun with it.
So far, my favorite thing have been the Brockages.
Oh, you like it?
Yeah, I really do.
Cool.
I like that.
It's cool. So we kind of forgot about the game. We did it one time. I like to call it this time I'm calling it our flashcard game.
Okay.
So if you go to the next slide, Mike.
Oh, there's still another slide. Okay, hold on a second. Let's go there. And flashcard game. Okay.
All right. So on this coin, what do you think, Mike? What's there? I'll give you a couple.
Well, it's got to be here. Alexander, but it's got a ram's horn. So there's my first thought, and that's what. So if it's a ram's horn, then that actually is Zeus, isn't it?
Well, you do have Zeus on. This is actually, you're right. It's Alexander.
Okay, it is.
Alexander. And that's you have the horn. The horn actually is a symbolization in this case of Lysimachus, who was a Greek king. So whenever you see the horn in this situation, it's always Lysimachus.
So Lysimachus was the emperor, was the king,
Yes,
and okay, so
king.
that's who this was made in honor of.
Right.
Okay.
Right. You have deified Alexander heads, or you have Lysimachus himself, and so the horn. When you see a horn in this situation, it's generally always Lysimachus. So it's a dead giveaway. They produce these coins for hundreds and hundreds of years, and it's always Lysimachus. Always, 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 always Lysimachus. So the horn is the one thing that will always give it away. And so when you see the horn, just think of Lysimachus.
So with the horn, it's Lysimachus. With the lion's skin, it's Alexander
or one of his descendants.
Okay. So, I mean, there's symbols that you got to start picking up on. I get it.
Right. So if you go to the next slide, Mike, I think you'll be able to figure this one out.
Yeah, I think I could figure this one out. So this one is, let's see. So this Caesar Domitian is, okay, so this one could be Domitian. And that's my guess.
You're right. Ding, 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 ding.
Wee-hoo.
This is Domitian, who is one of the 12 Caesars. He was actually the last of the 12 Caesars. And so if you have a 12 Caesar set, Domitian is your last coin. And yes, this is Domitian. It says it right on the coin.
That's exactly where I got it from.
But you'll learn over time, Mike, that these emperors start to look familiar. And so after a while, you won't even have to read the name. You'll just see that portrait and know that's Domitian.
Yeah. I mean, my first impression on it was, wow, that's Caesar. No, it's a Caesar.
Right.
Right.
That's correct. Okay. And then we got one more. I gave you 3 for the price of 1.
I think no, this is the right one. Okay. So this one, okay. First off, I love the dolphins. That, I don't even want to get into that for a second. The quadriga on the back, the Nike. I know that there's a symbol in here that I'm really missing as far as whose it is. The dolphins, and there's not much of a legend on this one.
No.
So this one, I'm going to go with, give me a second. Cleopatra?
Cheating. No.
Okay.
So when you have the dolphins around and you have the quadriga like this, it's typically always the coins of Syracuse. Okay. And this is the Decadrachm of Syracuse. Now, the person or people that produce this line drawing have it wrong because the quadriga always goes first, and then you have the Arethusa going second. So actually they have them flip-flopped. It's the head is actually the reverse of the coin.
So the head is Arethusa. Okay.
Right. And if the bottom, they have Euenetos. And so this is actually, there's 2 artists, which I've talked about in the show before. There's 2 artists that produce the Decadrachm. There's Euenetos and Kimon. This one is by Euenetos. And you can also tell because Kimon usually has a really hard nose and looks very much man-like, where Euenetos has this nice soft round nose and more female-like. And so the Kimons are actually rarer than Euenetos, but this is the Euenetos Decadrachm of Syracuse. So typically when you have dolphins around a head, it's going to be Cyclopunic or it's going to be Syracuse.
Okay, so that
I thought you might get this one because we've gone over Syracuse Decadrachms before, so I wasn't sure if you'd get it or not.
You know, it's like it with me. So much of it is repetition. That's just how I learn, and so it's one of those things where I'll see something 20 times before oh yeah, that's it. But when the light bulb finally goes on, then it's on and it's good. So
yeah, and the rest of our listeners are just like you. There's a lot of listeners that are just like you.
Hopefully they're a little smarter than that, but you know.
Well, some are and some aren't, right?
Sure.
You know, I mean, the whole point of the show is to teach, going from novice all the way through expert, right? And so we try to hit everybody, but in the beginning, when people are just starting out, these things look like they're very foreign to them.
Yes.
So
and look, there's no shame in that game either. It's okay. This is how you learn. I mean, to me, it's like I don't mind at all, and there's nothing wrong with being wrong.
There's no wrong answers really in the end. So this is all about learning and forging forward. So, which brings us to our pearl of wisdom.
Yes, we do have a pearl.
So I come to this constantly when people ask me, how do I know something is ancient? How do I know when to say no in an auction bidding process? I go with my gut. So always go with your gut when collecting. Is your best line of defense against regret. And so you always have to remember that if you go with your gut and you don't feel right about something, walk away. That can be true in collecting, can be true in life. So your gut is your best defense with doing the right thing. And you also have to know how to read your gut. Sometimes nervousness
can be excitement.
It can be excitement, have nothing to do with your gut.
Sure.
It's your gut is whether or not you have any doubt in your mind about something. And if we have doubt in our mind in anything that we're offering, we don't offer it. If somebody says, do you think this is real? I have a weird feeling about it after looking at these things for almost 31 years. I just say, you know what? I don't feel comfortable. My gut's telling me something different. And so you all have to listen to your gut and your instincts to know when to do certain things and when to collect and when to say no.
Well, from the standpoint of regret, I mean, it's really pretty simple that we're all going to make purchases that we don't want to make, or we're going to miss on a coin that we wanted and we had the opportunity to. But at the end of the day, if you kind of went with what you felt, you can say, you know what? It just didn't feel right. I'll learn from that rather than, rather than just go, man, it's like I made that mistake. Just because, you don't really think before you do it, or you don't really get a feeling for it.
And that goes, I think what you're trying to also say is that you can't beat yourself up when you do make those mistakes. You just have to kind of chalk them up to new experience.
It's tuition.
And that you won't do it. Yeah. And that you won't do it again. And so you really have to kind of, I do this with my kids all the time when they're stressing out about certain things. And I'm always like, look, you can't focus on all the negative all the time. Negative can always be there for you whenever you want it.
Yeah. There's a steady supply of that.
Yeah. I mean, being positive is where the challenge in life is. And so you can't beat yourself up over buying something that's bad, or you have to turn the switch and figure out a better situation. I do it all the time. I make mistakes even as a dealer, and, and sometimes I turn them into a positive. Mm-hmm. And so you just have to learn how to do that in life with anything that you do. And so that's even more true when you're collecting or you're dealing or anything in life. But,
and the more you know, the easier it is to go with your gut, because your gut is going to be more, accurate and better developed. But at the end of the day, even as a novice, it's like, think about it. If it doesn't feel right, hey, you got to walk away.
Yeah. Or get somebody who has a better gut than you.
Yeah. Yeah.
to get their experience. I had a dealer today show me a coin that he thought was fake, and I said, "Yep, fake." And he said, "Oh, I figured," but he needed to have that extra, advice to make him feel more comfortable about it. And so it's okay to look to our peers, to look to our friends who have better experience, and to dealers, and to get a consortium of vetting in any of the decisions that we do, if possible. So,
yeah, I mean, it can't hurt to have the extra opinion, and I think that it generally serves you well, because I like to ask questions just because of how much better I become at the end of it. I'm going to take that knowledge with me to the next time, and maybe I won't have to ask that question next time.
Yeah, and don't be embarrassed when you don't get
No,
things right.
look,
It's just part of life.
yeah.
You know, that's where humility comes into play, and I'm a big fan of humility. So I think when you're egotistical and you think you're always right about everything, then you don't have the ability to learn because your ego gets in the way, and humility doesn't leak in, and it doesn't allow you to learn.
I
'Cause
think
you
I
get those
understand
parts.
something about you a little bit better now. That's all
Oh,
I'll
you
say.
do?
Yes, I
Okay.
think I understand something a little bit better about you now.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. um, so that's our show, Mike.
Yeah, no, that was it. This was another action-packed episode. I mean, um, we're doing some shorts lately on our
Mhm.
website, and so I want you to look for that. But it's not quite done yet because you had something that you wanted to share about HJB.
I I do, and I don't like to always toot our horn on this show with our company, but it's Christmas time, and I wanted to point out. So HJB, we every year at Christmas we give out gift certificates to our company, and they're tiered based on how much money people spent, and so and we go. I have actually a few people that get $1,000 gift certificates, and I have then $500 gift certificates, 250, 75, and 50. And we give out about $50,000 worth of gift certificates every year to all our clients that have purchased from us. And we've been doing that for over a decade. We've given over $1 million worth of gift certificates. This started because my dad used to give chocolate tins of Harry and David every year, and we would put all the best coins that we bought every year on the tin, and then send it out to 75 or 100 of our best clients. And cost a lot of money. It took a lot of time to make the tins, and in the end, people appreciated them. But I don't know if their gut necessarily always appreciated them, and everybody gets chocolate and all this other junk during the holidays. And so I decided one year, I said to my dad, let's give out gift certificates instead. And so we expanded it all the way down to people who spend $1,000 with us, as long as it's not bullion. And
Right.
then what we do is I look at it as an investment in, they were good enough to buy from us. I feel like I can invest with them in their collecting. And so I think we are the only company that does this. Ask any of your other companies that you buy from them. C&G gives out a calendar. It's nice, but I can always find a calendar on my phone. And the rest of them give out cards and things like that. I think we're the only one in the industry that gives out gift certificates. Our clients love it, and giving out $50,000 every year is, I think, a great way to give back to the industry that's been so good to us. And so,
And
I like tooting our horn about us
it does
about it.
really target at the people that have helped make you successful,
Yeah,
and also proportionately. So it is a really cool thing. I watch the gift certificates come in all year, and watch the people and what they do, and it really is a great program. I mean, look, candy is dandy. All that stuff's great, but I'd rather have more coins.
hmm
So the way you figured out to do it is kind of nice in the fact that it creates business from your standpoint, and it gives your customers a little bit of little extra.
I think it's just a great way to say thank you. And yeah, okay, they're
Yeah,
going to
with
spend money
coins,
with us,
no better
but
way.
I've had, but I've had clients that just say, hey, I don't want to spend any more this year, but I was happy to get this $50 gift certificate. Can I just buy a couple books with it and break even with it? And I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
I mean, we've always given away a
it's
lot of.
not $50 off of a set purchase. It's a $50 gift certificate.
Yeah, it's the same as cash.
Yeah.
So, and so now what I don't like is somebody negotiates with me and negotiates with me and negotiates with me
And
on a
that
coin
pulls
and
out
then
a gift
comes up,
certificate.
then pulls out a gift certificate. That's kind of a crappy thing to do, but it happens all the time. But
So
it's,
there's your strategy.
but it's their strategy and it's what they want to do. So, it is
Okay.
what it is. But I think that it really puts us uh, puts us apart from the rest of our competition. And literally, I think about 4 years ago, we went over the $1 million mark with giving out gift certificates. So that's how long we've been doing it. And so it's happy holidays from Harlow and Burke every year. In fact, those of you who are our clients, we are working on the gift certificates right now, and they'll probably be going out in the next week and a half. So right before the holidays. And then they have a whole year to use them.
Yep.
So it's again, great program, and happy to do it, and happy to give back to our clients who have been so loyal to us over the years.
Absolutely. So that wraps up
That's
another.
my plug.
Okay. One completely free plug. Brought to you by Harlan J. Burke. So thank you to everybody who listened. And we'll see you on episode 22. Yeah, back to that ad.
Giddy up.
So long, everybody.
So long.
Thanks for listening to the Ancient Coin Podcast with Aaron Burke. We'll return with another episode soon. Meantime, you can join our private group on Facebook. Just go to facebook.com and search the Groups tab for Ancient Coin Podcast Discussion Group and ask to join. There you can become part of our community, where we share and discuss ancient coins, as well as the show, the ancient coin market, auctions, or just to give our own opinions on things in order to learn together. Join Aaron and Mike again soon for the next episode of the Ancient Coin Podcast with Aaron Burke.